Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us today ahead of our MLS Next Pro away match this weekend against Sporting Kansas City 2. Today, we're joined by our St. Louis City 2 head coach, John Hackworth. The match this weekend will take place at 7 p.m. at Rock Chalk Park in Lawrence, Kansas, and will be streamed on MLSNextPro.com. Please submit in the chat if you have a question, and then we will call on you to ask your question. So we can go ahead and get started with Jim Leaker. Jim, please go ahead and ask your question.
Can you hear me, Coach?
I can. How you doing, Jim?
Yeah, I just wanted to say congratulations on the victory.
Thank you.
It was great that you were able to come from behind. It was a little difficult to take that own goal, but once you went ahead and seemed pretty much in control of the game, were the younger players pleasantly surprised to get playing time near the end of the game and make things a little interesting?
Yeah, I think it's always really important for some of our younger guys to get game experience. Unfortunately, in a game where we thought we had pretty good control of it, we lost that control, and it put those young players in a difficult spot, which at the end of the day is a really good growth moment, because now it wasn't an easy game. It was really difficult moments. So that's great for them. You know, we made some mistakes there and hung on, if you will. But I always think when you make some of those mistakes, in particular with young players being on the field, and then you still come out on top, you know, you win a game, it's so much easier to reflect and be critical of some of the mistakes, so that it's really a learning process for all of us.
Understand. Yeah, it was a great game. It was a great game. The one player seemed to be their number 9 who played up on top. He seemed like he was more of an adult than he was a youth player. And he could play well.
Yeah, he's a first team player for Seattle Sounders. He is an excellent attacking player and really caused us some problems, in particular in the second half, when they moved him from a wide position to a more traditional 9 role.
And AJ was pretty happy that he scored a goal with his head. He says he doesn't have too many of those. So I had a chance to talk to him after the game.
He's used to scoring at Herman. So
yeah.
And I told him, what did I tell him? I think Thursday before we played, I said, hey, you know, it's about time you score a goal for us at Herman.
There you go.
And, yeah. He certainly did a great job there.
No, I really enjoy the style of play, and they're good to watch. They're good to watch.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
Yeah. Is there anybody else on the
All right, I think the next question is from Tom Timmerman. So Tom, go ahead and ask your question.
Okay. Hi, John.
Hey, how are you doing, Tom?
I'm good. I'm in Buffalo, by the way. You got 3 games coming up in 9 days. What's the approach in this next week look like for you with lineups and such?
Well, it's going to be difficult playing 3 games in the week. In particular, being on the road at SKC to start, then on the road for the Open Cup versus Louisville before coming back home. And we're going to need to use our depth, at least test our depth, rotate our roster some, make sure guys are recovered, try in every possible way to regenerate between some of these difficult games. It'll be a challenge for us, but every team has to go through these stretches of 3 games in a week. And while this is our first one, we feel like we're well prepared to do so, and are trying to approach it in a way where we might see some young guys on the field. You might see some debuts by other players, especially in starting roles. Again, that's wonderful for their own development, and for us as a team, nothing changes in terms of our expectations. we're going to play by our principles. We're always going to play for the win. But there's going to be some new faces out there for sure.
Just because it's the Open Cup, does that kind of take precedence right now? So the younger guys more likely play this weekend in Kansas City?
Yeah, I don't want to give away all my secrets, Tom, but you're certainly that's one thought for sure. I think it's more about trying to put together our rosters so that we give ourselves a chance to be successful in all of those games. We do have some of our young players that are down in the MLS Generation Adidas Cup in Dallas, and a shout out to them. They're doing really well. Have had some excellent results, playing really well. So, that's a balance. In our club, we're trying to make sure that from our academy all the way to CITY2, we're doing a really good job providing opportunities for all our players.
And is Kansas City, since they're at home, is it a situation for them where you might see some Sporting KC first division guys in this
Absolutely.
game?
Yeah, absolutely. We have to expect that. No question. I think they'll probably send some guys down from the first team. And it'll be just like it was against Tacoma, where Seattle did the same thing. And that's, I think, going to be the norm throughout this league.
And are you, obviously you've had games which are different ilks and caliber, but are you closing in on a first 11, or how do you look at how your roster is right now?
Well, because we're so young in the season, we've put out similar starting lineups in our first 3 matches. But I wouldn't say we're close, and I don't know that any team really, my humble opinion, you don't want to just have a starting 11. It makes you too predictable, especially when we feel really good about our team top to bottom. That means we need to give opportunities, and in particular a week like this, where you are probably going to see 3 different starting 11s. That just emphasizes the fact that we want to be a collective team. It's not about any one individual. It's not about who's starting and who's not. That's our mindset. And this week should be a good example of that.
Yeah. Any quick, simple scouting report on Kansas City?
Yeah. Benny Fallhaber is the coach, former national team player. I worked with him previously, good young coach. I think Peter Vermees, the head coach and sporting director for Sporting Kansas City, has done a really good job building an excellent club. I think we're going to get a team that is hungry and very motivated. Little bit of a contrast of style, similar to what we saw from Tacoma. And therefore, it's one of those kind of chess match games where if we can impose what we're trying to do against them, we'll probably have the advantage. And on the flip side, if they can get what they want to get going, then we're going to have to battle through and see if we can take advantage of some moments.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Tom Schwartz. Tom, go ahead and ask your question.
I think that was the wrong Tom. You unmuted.
Okay, I think I unmuted. Hey, Coach Tom Schwartz, KFNS. How you doing?
Good, Tom.
Hey, let me ask you, what are the toughest adjustments for the younger players to adapt to this level?
It depends on each of the young guys. The one overall thing that you can never replace is just the experience. When we brought, for example, Carson Gibbs into the game against Tacoma, the last meaningful game he played was the high school state championship. So you have a young man who goes from playing the high school game to playing his first professional game. And that jump is tremendous. And until he got those first minutes, until he was on the field and he made that first run, nothing could replace that experience. Jack Wagner, the same exact thing. You know, he played, his last game was for Scott Gallagher Academy, and all of a sudden he's playing in a professional game. I mean, the difference in level is pretty astounding. It's you know, the speed of play, it's the athleticism and the players. I mean, they're playing against grown men, and that is just a huge challenge. And we've done a lot of that during preseason, but until you get out there in a real game and you make your debut, till you get those experiences, till you make some of those difficult runs, and all of a sudden, you know, your heart's pounding out of your chest, you know, you're suffering for oxygen, and you still have to make the next run. You know, and learning how to manage that from emotions to the actual pressure of the moment, it's invaluable. So we've had a lot of debuts so far in our young history with City 2. For example, we give out an autograph ball. Everybody on the team and staff autographs a ball. We're going to give that out to all of our debut players who make their professional debut. We have a lot of soccer balls.
You got a sponsor for that?
Unfortunately, well, Adidas, so hopefully they'll come through.
Along the same line, could you tell us the difference between a cup game and a league game? Is there a difference other than the knockout factor? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, the U.S. Open Cup, you know, it's one of the oldest tournaments in the world, and it is, you know, the national championship cup, and anybody can play in it. So in this case, you know, we were successful against Indy, a USL championship team. Now we face Louisville on Wednesday, and the idea is that, you know, we want to go as far as we can. Really, the farther you go, the more likelihood you're going to face an MLS first team. So it would be wonderful if we can continue to make a deep run in the US Open Cup. Might give ourselves the chance to be pitted against an MLS team, and it would be wonderful for our fan base and for this city and community to potentially see an MLS club playing our City 2 team a year ahead of our inaugural season.
And for this, will we be seeing, and when we see this team play, will we be seeing the future in terms of not the players, but the style, the identity, who you guys are going to be? Is this what we're seeing from day one?
I think it is. You know, Lutz and Bradley and myself, you know, all the way down through the academy teams, we're trying to implement this style across our club. You know, it's based on foundational principles that we believe in very strongly. So yes, you know, it's always going to be a difference of a little bit of quality, perhaps a little bit of experience, and but at the same time, you should be able to identify when you watch a City team play that there is a distinct style. And, you know, I've been very proud of our young men in the first 3 games in front of our fans, you know, in games that are televised. You know, for instance, my family has watched all these games from all over the country, and I've had friends and colleagues that have commented and made, you know, specific comments about how we're playing, and that it's very distinct. And there's, you know, things that we've talked about, you know, publicly about what we wanted to be and how we want to perform on a game-to-game basis. And you see some of those things coming out. And when that happens, you know, all of us are very proud of that. And I think if we stick to it, which we are very determined to do, you're going to see that more and more. And that will give everybody really good insight into how the first team will play next year.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
All right, and we have one more question from Santiago Beltran. So Santiago, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, John. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. With Kansas City being the closest city to the closest MLS city to St. Louis. Does playing against Sporting KC have a special meaning for you and the players?
Yeah, it should be, it should be the closest thing we have to a local derby, and for sure, trying to take ownership over the state of Missouri is going to be something that we want to start from the very beginning of this rivalry. So there is a little bit of, I think we play them 3 times this year in the league, and that's all these games are going to be competitive. Going forward next year, the same thing. So, we want to start off on the right foot. We're probably as determined to keep, playing by our own principles and learning and growing, but it is a special, contest, and we recognize that.
Thank you.
All right, I think we're going to go ahead and close out there. The match against Sporting Kansas City 2 takes place this Saturday at 7 p.m. Central Time and will be live streamed on MLSnextPro.com. All right, thank you.